You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
On our second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend, each and every Saturday and Sunday, we reach out to the community, listen to their questions, and really make sure that you've been heard. I want you to understand that you can ask our team, you can call on us, and that we'll be able to give you a place to get started. We'll be able to be a sounding board for you and also let you understand that you're not alone. So many people in our community right now from all over the world have gone through similar issues to you, if not exactly the same. What we want you to understand is that much of which affects us feels very unique, feels like we as an individual are the only one having to deal with this. But as you will learn if you join CabralSupportGroup.com, it's a free Facebook group, by listening to the Cabral Concept, by listening to house calls, you'll start to see that these issues are pervasive in our culture. And because of that, that should at least give you hope that it's not you, you're not the only one, and that there are true underlying root cause imbalances that if you figure out what those are, you will be able to correct them. Whether they're vitamin deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, amino acid deficiencies, fatty acid deficiencies, or maybe they're toxicities. Maybe they're cadmium, maybe it's bromine, maybe it's mercury or lead, or maybe it is aluminum. It could be any number of things. So what we want to do is we want to simply look at what your deficiencies are, and we want to look at what your toxicities are. If we can figure those out, we will be able to help you begin to heal the body. So keep in mind, this is very different than diagnosing, treating, and curing disease. We look at the underlying root causes that lead to dis-ease in the body, and we go about correcting the underlying root cause imbalances. That's what being an integrative health practitioner is all about. It's looking for the root cause rather than masking the symptoms. So if you're new to the Cabral Concept, that's what we talk about each and every day, Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends, we answer our community's questions. So without further ado, I'm going to dive right into the show today. The first question that came in for today, this one's from 11/29. I guess that's about 7 weeks or so ago. And it says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral." This is from Anonymous. "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Can you please tell me what you'd recommend for natural antibiotics for my 8-year-old? We're working on correcting gut issues. I believe it stemmed from too many antibiotics, previously poor diet." This is Anonymous. Again, you can read everything today at stephencabral.com/1451. I always recommend that you simply follow along with the questions, and then you'll know exactly who we are giving what answer to. We went on pediatric ortho doc who confirmed that there was a foreign body in her foot, had surgery, went well, more antibiotics, more anesthesia. According to the doctor, there was no real indication of infection. Talked about being in a splint for 2 weeks. What natural antibiotics or supports would you use for your daughters if it was a similar situation? Thank you in advance for your wisdom and compassion. So just one thing for your knowledge is whenever there's gut issues, we run what's called the Candida metabolic and vitamins test, and we'll also run the bacteria and parasite stool test. And then there's one additional one if you want to run it, and that's a food sensitivity test. So I've run those with both my daughters just to make sure things are all good, right? You don't have to be sick to run lab tests. That's the big thing. You don't want to, work on your fitness till you get out of shape. You don't want to work on your diet and then wait until you're sick. So remember, we should really be doing these things preventatively. But again, and I understand, I was late to the game. I didn't really figure this out until my 20s. But what I can say to you is that we do those lab tests, and then those are all at equilibriumnutrition.com. And if you've been listening to the Cabral Concept, that is where all of our practice protocols are right online for everyone. Usually, most doctors keep them secret and they never share what they do. We have everything right there, literally everything right there for you to see what we use. And if you want to use our products, our lab tests, great. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. You are welcome to work with another functional medicine doctor, another integrative health practitioner, You're welcome to use other products, whatever works for you. My job is being a teacher. That's really what it is. So I will continue to teach the rest of my life, and that is my lifelong goal. So in terms of natural antibiotics, well, we're very straightforward in what we use for our daughters. We use the CBO protocol if they had gut-based issues. We use biocidin as a natural antibacterial, and we will do a little bit of oregano in there. Again, it's never mixed straight because it's very, very strong. We'll typically put it in some of the liquid vitamin C. We'll put it in a little bit of liquid elderberry, and that's a great way for us to do it. And of course, we use 1 drop of our vitamin D to get them enough vitamin D as a child. So that's what we do. Biocidin, oregano oil are great as natural antibacterials, and they can be applied to the body. They can be taken internally, whatever works for you. And for kids, we typically use, like I just said, those products, biocidin and the oregano. And for adults, we have things that are a little stronger. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay. Up next is Mary. Mary asks, Dear Dr. Cabral, I'm writing on behalf of my husband, who's recently been diagnosed with muscular dystrophy at age 72. The doctors have told him it's genetic and it may run in the family, but I recently met with one of your IHP graduates who told us about your rain barrel effect and is helping us change our diets as a starting point. Together, we're trying to understand what triggered the onset at this late stage. We've learned about functional medicine tests, but we are overwhelmed with the cost. Can you share any of your experience with this disease and what you've seen to be the most common root causes? Thank you for being such a wonderful human being and for sharing your wisdom of healing with the world. Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate that. And I totally get it. I understand that the functional medicine labs are not within everyone's reach. I share the story all the time that when I was growing up, I was 19 years old when I met my first functional medicine doctor after 2 years of going from MD specialist to specialist, and I got introduced to these labs, same exact labs I offer today. It's pretty amazing. So we couldn't afford all of them, so we chose 2 to get started with. And so I always let people know, you can just start with 1. I mean, you could start with just our starter kit, which is a great discount on the combo. So anyway, I just want you to do what's best for you. If you read The Rain Barrel Effect, you'll learn a lot about detoxification. For MD, could not be more of an advocate for detoxification. Now, your husband may have to start very slowly because he just might not be used to any of this to a greater extent, and also he may very well have overflowed his rain barrel. So he might have to just start with a days 3 through 7 meal plan and not to do the 2 liquid fasting days, which would speed up the autophagy process and very quickly and rapidly detox the body, given all the nutrients in the equilibrium nutrition detox, also called the Dr. Cabral detox, also called the Achieve Equilibrium detox. That's where I would start. It was with toxicity. And I would probably also, of course, I would get on our meal plan. I would do a smoothie every morning. And I would do our daily foundational protocol level 2 or level 3. And what else would I do? I would do the heavy metal detox as well. Again, I can't give you treatments. I can't give you disease diagnosis, and I can't cure disease. Remember, that's not within my scope of practice. So just keep in mind, I'm always talking about what I would do from an underlying root cause imbalance. Chris is up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral team. Love your show and your work. I'm a 42-year-old male, healthy diet and habits apart from high stress for quite a few years. About 2 years ago, my anus started itching. It would come and go a few times, and now it has been ongoing now for 2+ years. The only sense of relief I get is to scrub what seems to be the skin cells from the area, but I think that worsens the eczema. While the steroids do remove the itching and inflammation, symptoms return about a week or so later. Any ideas on what to do? I have undergone the CBO protocol as well as the gut rebuilding with no result. I also get mild psoriasis in my ear, and it has been around for about the same period of time. Okay, it says you also have benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is basically swelling or inflammation of the prostate. So let's help Chris out here. So I want everyone, I'm not going to go in full on this answer again because I've actually answered it many, many times. So if you would go to stevencabral.com/podcasts, and on the search box, which is basically very close on the page because we removed the writing at the top if you've seen the new website, and I just type in anus, ANUS. I'm going to get episode 1422, 1415, 897, 891, 646, 613, 604, 288. So those are all the podcasts where I've mentioned the word anus or anal itching, and you can go to those shows and it will explain exactly what it is. And over the past couple of weeks, I know that this, obviously you wrote in on November 30th, so you didn't hear my answer to this, it can also be topical fungal-based overgrowth, meaning that your gut might be good, but the actual anal area may be an imbalanced level of pH, sometimes too alkaline, which doesn't allow then, or which allows for overgrowth of bacteria, or most likely fungus. It's almost always a fungal-based issue, but not always, but almost always. Food sensitivities can cause it. Yes, I guess overgrowth in the gut could certainly give you that itchy sensation as well. So my thing, Chris, would be to this. I would just run that Candida metabolic and vitamins test, as well as the bacterial and parasite stool test, just to make sure that if there was any yeast and fungus and bacterial overgrowth, that is gone. And then I would listen to the previous podcasts where I talked about what to do for that, adding the apple cider vinegar, adding a little bit of coconut oil after the apple cider vinegar dries, and then putting a couple drops of tea tree oil as well. All right, Mark is up next. Dear Dr. Cabral, I'm a keen follower of your overall work and actively listening to most of your podcast. I'm based in London, born and raised in South India, married to my wife, who is also South Indian, and 2 children aged 8 and 12. I share this, given your own history, in the subcontinent. While I have my own health complexities in life in general relative to mental and physical health, relationships with family, it's a long question. So again, for the long questions, you can read them at stephencabral.com/1451. But I want to make sure we don't dedicate the whole show just to one question. All right, so this, though, is focused on his 12-year-old son. Was diagnosed with ADD, not hyperactive. A few years ago, he's been on medication, goes through what the different medication is, has a history of swallowing glue, blue tacks in large quantities. Sports is not one of his main strengths. Okay. On a more general note, last but not least, he is very low on self-confidence, not the first to voice his opinion, and won't be the first to approach someone and make conversation. All right. I've spent some time listening and researching the books, ADD, including Dr. Gabor Mate, I'm going to throw in my own 2 cents here, who's amazing. Arguably, some of his condition could be influenced by poor parenting, arguments at home, and there's no doubt is a large part. I would really like to explore fixing his problems. All right. Considering we live in the UK, I wonder what the restrictions are in terms of remote testing. I wonder if the rest of the family, including myself, should be tested. Yes. Okay. So let's get you your answer on children with ADD right away. If in my opinion, I want to run the big 5 labs. But again, I know not everyone can run the big 5 labs, but it's still the best thing to do. So let me give you an order of importance just in terms of finances. First, most important, Candida metabolic and vitamins test, also called the organic acids test. Up next is the hair tissue mineral analysis, also called the minerals and metals test. Those 2 combined are a starter kit. If you can only do a couple things, you do those 2, because it could be copper toxicity, it could be higher levels of, or it could be lower levels actually of dopamine. So I want to look at these specific things. And then the third one would be, I would not bother running the thyroid adrenal hormone, also called the stress, mood, and metabolism test. You can save your money there. I would run the stool test up next instead. And then I would run the food sensitivity test. And then I would run the omega-3. These things all play a part, remember, on the gut-brain axis, right? So the gut is connected to the brain through the enteric nervous system, through the vagal nerve, and we want to understand that how someone is inflamed in their digestive system absolutely does affect stress, anxiety, etc. Of course, there is something to do with parenting and all that, but I would not be too hard on yourself there. What I would look at instead is what are there in terms of chemical imbalances in the body, in terms of vitamins, minerals, their ratios, etc., and what you might be able to do. Omega-3s is very helpful that I've seen. Zinc is very helpful. Magnesium is very helpful. So a little bit of vitamin C can be helpful. These are all things that I use in my practice all the time. But again, I prefer to do a little bit of lab testing first. Just the starter kit will at least get you started. So hopefully that gives you a little start, Mark, and thank you for writing in. Appreciate you. Molly's up next. Hello, I've listened to Dr. Cabral for some time now. We've also done some food sensitivities for you guys for my daughter. Today I'm inquiring about myself. I have a shingles outbreak. I've had this for several years. I became infected with genital herpes through an unfortunate and unforeseen incident 3 years ago. I listened to one of Dr. Cabral's podcasts a while back about how it could be possible to get rid of the herpes virus for good. I'm not sure if both these viruses could be nailed with one protocol, but either way, I'm looking for guidance on this. With both of these viruses active in my body, I'm not well a lot of the time. I have herpes breakout at least once a month, lasting anywhere from 3 to 7 days, very painful. My nutrition is very anti-inflammatory. I do take his daily nutritional support every day. Looking forward to hearing back and some hope for my future. Thank you, Molly. Molly, this is a great question. So remember, one virus is not treated different than another virus. And again, we're not treating disease. So we're looking at these underlying root-based causes. And I just want you to know, I did a whole podcast on how to destroy viruses. So I want to link that up for you because that will give you, it's a 20-minute show. So let's just find that for you right now. We'll just type in virus. Okay, so go to stevencabral.com/podcast. We use a search bar and we type in destroy viruses. We see that it is episode 760. So that will give you your answer right there. And I bet if I click on that little Cabral Concept 760, it will give you a protocol of how to do that. And there it is. Vitamin D, zinc, L-lysine, vitamin C, apple cider vinegar, colloidal silver, all sorts of good stuff. And then I give you the exact recipe. So there you have it. It's all at stevencabral.com/760. And then also controlling stress is a huge part of dealing with viruses, making sure it's not just supplements, right? It's a whole de-stress protocol, making sure that you do your detoxes, that you're getting the sleep that I spoke about, gentle exercise, not too much, and then going very low, at least initially, on your high arginine foods and going higher on your lysine-based foods. I did a podcast on that as well. You're welcome to look that up. What else can I give you for advice? And yes, we've had many people go from once or twice monthly breakouts of virus or genital herpes to then 4 months or so without an outbreak. So they do have one 4 months later, and then they go 6 months. And then, so you can see how then it starts to progress as their body's getting healthier and healthier. So these are all things, again, that we help people with. And I think one thing that is not on this page that you could also add in would be something called monolaurin. Monolaurin would be one more item that you could add in. So Molly, thank you for writing in. Okay, John is up next. Hi, Doc. John from Australia here. I have a question about the Oura Ring. I have one and notice my resting heart rate is on average 40, but goes down around 38, 39 also. Is this good or a concern? How does it affect blood circulation? I'm predominantly Vata with Pitta body type. Also, can you explain heart rate variability and when REM, non-REM, deep and light sleep, what they are, and is there a healthy order of these types? I've only heard you only dream at the end of your night's sleep. Or is that not true? Hope that makes sense. LOL. Second question. Couldn't help myself. I want to check my blood glucose levels. I bought a glucometer and check before each meal. I have a super metabolism and need 3 meals a day plus 2 to 3 fruit snacks to keep me going. What should ideal glucose levels represent? I eat moderately healthy, some processed, and minimal wheat. Example, I eat oats for breakfast at 6 a.m. I'm starving by 8:39. Cheers for any help. You are a great mentor, living legend. # living legend. I love your IHP 1 and 2 course also. See you in Sydney, John. John, excited that I will be meeting you at our Sydney event. Very exciting. Let's get through your questions. So I'm going to be doing a whole show on sleep and the sleep cycles that people go through. People get confused all the time when I say an hour and a half of deep sleep is good. I still recommend the 7 to 9 hours a night. And then looking at REM sleep, we want that to be even a little bit higher. So I'm going to go through all of that, John, no doubt about it. Okay, let's get into your heart rate, though, because there could be an issue with this heart rate if you're a Vata body type. So typically, a Vata body type actually has a little bit higher heart rate. Like a normal heart rate maybe for a Vata body type would be more into a healthy one, would be like more in the 60s, right? So we want to look specifically at that. There's something called a bradycardia, and that is when the heart beats pretty slow. It could, definitely could be in the 30s. It could be when you drop very low into hypoglycemia before then your heart rate would spike back up. And then again, but people have very healthy heart rates in the 40s when they are endurance-based athletes and do a lot of cardio and exercise. So I couldn't tell you if it's necessarily good or bad. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, but we just want to look at what other causal factors there may be, okay? Now, you did say that you bought a glucometer and checked before your meal, you have super metabolism. What you didn't tell me, what should ideal glucose levels represent? Well, I've done many shows on ideal glucose, so many shows. You simply want to be between 75 and 95 on your glucometer. That's it. You can go for the Australian translation as well. I believe I'm not positive, so I don't want to say it just because I'm not positive for Australia. So what I do recommend then is just making sure you understand those levels. If you bought a US-based or Western-based glucometer, it'll say 75 to 95, and that's before a meal. That means your blood sugar is controlled. And then about 1.5 hours to 2 hours after your meal, your blood sugar should also be back down within that range. So we typically give people 2 hours for that blood sugar to be back down. I'm just worried that you eat 3 meals plus 2 to 3 fruit snacks. I don't think you're getting enough protein. You said you have oats for breakfast. I mean, oatmeal is great for many people, good for the Vata body type, but I would be using that daily nutritional support for 15 grams of a vegan-based protein with all your vitamins and minerals. I would just make sure that at all 3 of your main meals, you're getting, let's say for you, 20 grams of protein at each one of those meals. I don't know how big you are, but I think 60 grams just of those meals would be very safe to say. So, John, hopefully that was helpful. I appreciate you writing in. I appreciate you being a part of the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute. Amazing, and I can't wait to see you this coming early March in Sydney, Australia. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this Cabral HouseCall. Love that you are part of this community. I really do. It means the world to me. And be sure to come back tomorrow where we start the week off right with our Motivation and Mindset Monday.
Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.